Well, hey guys, it's Ian from SS8000 Cars, welcoming you to a video on the Golf GTI. Now, as some of you know, we've had a little bit of trouble with our own Golf R, and that still hasn't come back yet. So we managed to persuade the garage to let us have a GTI. Now, there are some clear differences with the GTI and the Golf R. Clearly the front is very slightly different. I mean, this one is spec'd very highly, so I'd say it was very similar to the spec of the R, to be truthful, and show you a little bit later. But the inside, it has sat nav, not the 8-inch screen. It has full leather, so we don't get the checkered effect that you get on the GTI. Now, this is a very recent car. I think this was November. So it's a couple of months, well, probably not even a couple of months old. It's got the red stripe, the sort of the iconic red stripe going around the front to denote that it's GTI. Obviously it has the GTI decals on the side of the car. Has what I've not seen before, new design 19-inch alloys, which I think are actually quite smart, especially as the car is in black. And the wheels are silver and black. I think it lends a really purposeful look to the wheels themselves. I mean, there are more spokes than we have in the McLaren, but it's a similar type of base. So the inside of the wheel and everything is black, and then it's just the very outside edge is silver. I actually think that looks really smart. You can see the GTI again, the decals at the back here, but you get twin exhausts on the GTI. Now, this is a DSG car, so as a consequence, unfortunately, we're not going to get the chance to try it a manual. But I hear from our VW garage that the manual tends to be quite rare because the majority of people spec the GTIs and Rs in DSG mode. I suppose it's logical, therefore, that when they tend to provide cars for themselves, they'll always go for the spec that they can sell the most easily. I'd say exactly the same leather inside as the R. This one's done 4,000 miles, which is actually quite a lot in a month and a half. Maybe it's a little bit older than that. Seems strange, the slightly smaller sat nav. And of course, we've been used to the glass sunshine roof, which this car doesn't actually have. But other than that, it really is similar inside to the Golf R. The steering wheel is the same, and the instrumentation is broadly the same. Again, this one is keyless go, so it's just a case of, as long as you've got the key in the car somewhere, you can push the engine button and the engine will kick into life. I've got to be honest with you, the outside of the car really is very, very, very similar to the Golf R, and especially since we've just been using a 5-door, and this is also a 5-door. I do like the wheels, actually. I think the wheels are very smart. And again, exactly the same room inside. Just pop into the boot briefly. Now, because this doesn't have the 4-wheel drive hardware, I was wondering whether there'd be any more room in the boot, but there isn't. It's exactly the same inside as the R. Both 5-door and 3-door are exactly the same from a boot perspective. I particularly like the 19-inch wheels on the Golf R. I think the 19-inch wheels are incredibly good looking and probably about the right diameter for the car. I really do like them. I think they're really smart. Now, this one has the full leather upholstery. So again, we've got the front sports seats, which are in full leather, but they adjust in exactly the same way. I'm going to get in quickly. Hi guys. I'm going to get in quickly and just let you see for a second. You know, there's enough legroom. So whilst it doesn't look cavernous in the back in any way, I actually think the legroom's not too bad at all. And very quickly you can see the dash from the rear, but it's a little bit easier to see probably from back here. So a couple of features that you can see is this one has the sunshine roof. I absolutely love sunshine roofs. I travel even in the winter. I tend to travel with the roof open and the heater on, warming your feet. And as you can see, it's closed at the moment, but yeah, I think it's a nice feature, and I would definitely have it if I was speccing the car from new. This has got, I think it's the 8.5 inch navigation screen. It is much better than the smaller screen. Okay guys, we're in the car. Hopefully you can see and hear me quite well, and we're going to take the GTI out for a run. Feels nice and tight, but really very little difference to the R. And remember, of course, this is front wheel drive, so that will make a difference to the way that it scrabbles for grip. So I'm going to try sport setting. It doesn't sound as throaty as the R. But then maybe that's the purpose to which this car has been produced, really, is maybe to not be quite as aggressive as the R. But in every other way, it really is very similar. This has got a slightly mottled carbon-like effect, which actually is quite smart. I have to say, quite like that. Seats are as good as ever. I'd say I've got to be honest with you, they don't say R on them clearly, because it's not the R, but other than that I'd say they appear to be exactly the same, and I'd say the quality of leather being used is exactly the same. Oh, okay, now that's interesting. Lots are coming out of that particular road onto the main road here, lots of wheel slippage. The traction control was doing its utmost to keep the wheels from spinning, but oh my goodness, they were spinning. I don't know whether the squealing came up there, but that just wouldn't happen in the R. The R is much more composed than that. Now, I suppose you'd say that possibly doesn't matter particularly, because you're never flat out when pulling out of a junction, so you just have to be a little bit more careful in a front-wheel drive car than you do in a four-wheel drive car. But that's interesting, because the R, as you know, in everyday use is 90% of the power to the front and 10% to the back. But obviously the system is clearly very quick in terms of being able to apportion the power to the rear, so to take some of the 90% from the front and apportion it to the rear, so you're very stable for a lot of the time. Seems to be just as quiet as the R. In fact, quieter actually on tick over, because on the R, even in eco, you can hear the exhaust making a noise, whereas on here it really is quite silent. And again, the DSG box is really very good. See, when you go into sports, by pulling down on the DSG lever here, on the R, you can hear the throb. It makes quite a noise on tick over, whereas I've noticed in this it's sort of set more quietly. Although my understanding is it's basically the same engine, just in a different stage of tune. Both 2 litre units, 4 cylinders. It's funny actually, in the R, I thought the fact that it only had 4 cylinders might be slightly irritating, but it's not. I mean, it's a nice engine. I think if I was paying north of 50 for a car, I would expect there to be more than 4 cylinders, but we've talked about that and the latest generation Cayman and Boxster having the 4-cylinder engine before. nice noise on upshift. You do notice the relative lack of power in this. Lots of acceleration, although clearly not as much as in the R. But what I do get a slight sense of is that when you're accelerating, especially if you're accelerating with a slight, not an incline, but a slight radius in the corner, so in other words, where you're actually not accelerating in a straight line, you're going round a corner very slightly, there is tug coming from the front wheels as they're not scrabbling in any way, but you can feel them pulling against the steering wheel. You just don't get that in the R. Now obviously there's a price difference between the GTI and the R. It's some £4,000. But if you're happy to buy second hand, of course, the second hand price can be pretty good. I mean, I think this car would be up, probably with all the extras that it has, it'd be up for around 27,000, I would imagine. And remember, we only paid 26,000 for our R. Although this is newer. This is a few months old, whereas our R was just over a year old. 50% of all Golf R owners are likely to have the car on track at some point. So it's, you know, it's tuned in that way, and it's a great deal of fun. But then also, the Golf can do quite as sophisticated as it is doing now, coming up the motorway. And not huge speeds, admittedly, but it is a very comfortable companion, whether it be on its own or in a comparison test. There's no question people love it, you know, and it's all ages. So people in their 20s, people in their 30s, starting a young family, and then people of my age and older find the Golf does everything extremely well. It's as fast as you need it to be, it's as smooth as you need it to be, and certainly in DSG, I've not driven the manual, in DSG twin clutch mode, it's very comfortable to drive on an everyday basis. I enjoy this car. I mean, I can't tell you how much I enjoy this car. Okay guys, well, I'm hoping that gives you an inkling of what I think of it. We've got another video coming up soon with Harry and James, comparisons between the E46 M3 and our Golf R. Which one would you buy? Obviously the M3 is a little bit more powerful, but you're buying a much older car for the same money as you get a very new or lightly used Golf R. So I'd be interested in their conclusions on that. And then further forward, we will be having a track day where we'll have hopefully a 918 Porsche. That's not confirmed as yet, but a GT3 RS, the latest 991, RLT, the GT4, and we'll be focusing on which is the best track day car. Looking forward to that, although that'll be March before we get that out. And then finally, in January, we've got up the Mercedes GTS, AMG GTS, which I'm really looking forward to, because that is a car that I think looks absolutely great and sounds even better. Okay guys, please make sure you subscribe, and it's Ian from SS8000 Cars signing off.